Has the league caught up to Kellen Moore's underneath, kind of short developing, timing based offensive concepts? In particular, what I've noticed is here on third downs, it does seem like over the past two games, these teams have been kind of sitting down on these routes a little bit. And I want to take you back and just kind of talk for a second about what we saw in the Green Bay game during the wild card, round of the playoffs, which was a lot of the mesh concepts that we saw that were working for previous weeks, to where we were getting some spacing with Devontae Smith and guys like that, and really taking advantage of teams, getting them on those mesh concepts. Green Bay was kind of sitting on those last game, guys. I mean, they were all over that route concept, and I got to be honest, some of the offensive struggles we saw from that Green Bay game were partially related to the fact that we didn't do a good job on those underneath routes, like getting Jalen some very clean, easy looks to get the ball out of his hands. And then I want to turn the chapter to basically what I saw in this game, looking at this from the divisional round here with, the Rams, who have a very opportunistic defense, although a defense I think a lot of us suspect that we would have a little more success with through the passing game. And to my surprise, when I went back and I watched the film, there were some plays that were a little bit long developing in nature, just like in the Green Bay game. But I don't think the Eagles are taking as many deep shots as people think. I mean, we definitely had a couple in this game where there were some missed opportunities in the realm of those deep throws. But for the most part, this offense is kind of more of a paced, hurried up style that's a lot of underneath developed route running going on here. And in this particular game, I saw a concept that came to life on the first third. Well, it wasn't really the first third down. On the first third down on the second possession, or first 3 and out, to where it was the first sack Jalen Hurts, gave up, to where it became pretty obvious that, this is a multifaceted issue we're seeing with the passing game right now. It's not solely Kellen Moore. It's not solely Jalen Hurts and holding the ball too long. It's not solely the offensive line, especially the interior offensive line, which has gotten burnt a few times, and they gave up some sacks in this game that it wasn't Kellen's fault. It wasn't Jalen's fault. It was the interior. But play by play, you can see little things kind of pop up to where it's a little bit of everything kind of going on here. And I want to get to the very first sack of this game, and I'm going to try to break down all 7 of them before the end of the week, guys, because I just think that they tell different stories. Depending on the sack you're looking at, it's going to vary the story in which you're going to tell from what the tape's going to show you. All right, y'all, so without further ado, let's roll into the first sack and let's talk about what is shown there. Let's watch the chess match that takes place between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback versus the defensive coordinator who's read out of play calling. You can see the strong side safety here, play side safety, then that nickel corner. You see some movement here. Post-snap, the Rams are going to fall into was basically a cover 3 with Holt, number 97, being used as a simulated pressure guy. Post-snap, he drops underneath as a hook defender here. You can watch right here, guys. He's going to fall back and get right into that window that Devontae was running. How the Eagles adjusted to this look, they use an out motion with Saquon in order to change the passing strength side. So they're going to basically motion an out kind of movement here from Saquon, and they're going to try to get a 3-on-2 look. That's what they're hoping for. Jalen and Kellen go for an old school West Coast staple. It's called a triangle read. It was made popular by Bill Walsh, but Frank Reich, Sean Payton with Drew Brees, Kellen Moore, all these guys have used it before, and you can just kind of see the triangle that's there. It's only a 1-2-3 read, and I'm determining the 1-2-3 read on a guess based upon where I see Jalen's eyes going on tape, guys. He's going to come down here to Saquon. I think he's genuinely shocked when he comes back to Devontae and he sees that Hulk is dropped right into that window where Devontae was. You can tell his eyes were kind of on Saquon, and then when he comes back around to Devontae's route, he expects it to be open by the pre-snap look he saw, but you can see Hulk's right there, boom, right in that window. I think what has to be said here is that this is a coverage sack, simply put. I mean, you guys saw this, right? I mean, we can get on Jalen because I do think there was a little bit of an opportunity there that he could have potentially just gotten the ball out to Saquon Barkley there and gave him a chance to make a play in the flats. But I can also understand the argument of hey, man, if that ball isn't placed the right way, at best it's probably getting bat down. One of the worst case scenario is that corner is sitting on that route concept, and he might jump that route on you if that ball's hung a little bit. Or, you're going to basically throw a hospital throw. I don't really buy into these hospital throws, guys. I just think the way that the modern game is legislated, I heard that said about the A.J. Brown drop, the first drop, that it was a hospital ball. I just don't necessarily agree with that stuff anymore, guys, because back in the day, those would have been hospital balls. But the rules, the game's really regulated now. It's pretty hard to get away with those type of things now in terms of, throwing a guy into, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't hit a defensive receiver. There's so much going on there, guys, in terms of, like, the way they legislate the game now. So I do take a little issue with some of the ways that people are stating that. With that said, in this situation, what I think happened is that the Rams were all over this play. And they have done a little bit of the Leslie Frazier stuff. That's something that has come out from Shula, their defensive coordinator. He's a young guy. I think he was a linebackers coach for them not that long ago. This might be his first year, if I'm not mistaken, as a defensive coordinator. And there does seem to be a little bit of a Leslie Frazier-esque nature to the way that he plays his defenses. Like, he does use some simulated pressure. He will bring some 5- and 6-man pressures. He will do some replacement blitzes. Like, you do get some of that aspect from him where he will bring people from depth. So he'll bring 6 guys on the line of scrimmage, then he drops out 2 of his linebackers, but it's really replacement blitz because while he drops his linebackers, he's bringing one of his safeties. Like, Shula has been a little creative with the blitz packages as the season has gone on for them. And I think he was just all over this underdeveloping kind of passing game concept from Kellen Moore in the Eagles offense. And I do think this is something that going forward, they're going to have to get this under control a little bit, if I'm being honest. One thing that stood out to me here is that there's opportunities, right? Even in this game, when you're looking at this particular play in itself, look, they audible out, they run it's not really an audible as much as it is that he could have changed direction of the play side. I can't say if it's an audible or just a change in a direction, but you can see he's clearly moving Saquon. They're moving Saquon on an out motion. They're trying to get a 3-on-2 look there. I mean, that's kind of the whole prefaces. That's the whole point of kind of like what you do when you're running this kind of triangle, progression read. It's a West Coast staple. It's something that all West Coast offenses do. But I will say that if Jalen is more cognizant of the backside, so not play side when they move Saquon over and they change the play side, but now if he stays on the backside, I will say that you get the numbers actually even for you on that side over there, and you have A.J. Brown potentially where you can make that play. Now, the problem is like you have to understand the way that this is coached inside of meeting rooms, guys. You have to understand that the way that they scouted the looks from the Rams and what they were suspecting the look would be that they got from the Rams. I mean, there's a million and one things that like you just can't Monday morning quarterback, guys. You have to be a part of the actual planning and the processing of the game plan to quite have a great feel for this. But I will say that in addition to just saying like going backside there or just taking and putting faith in Saquon to make that play there and then make a guy miss in space, and then you probably got a good 10, 15 yards before someone can rally to the tackle on Saquon, and that's if they can even bring Saquon down once he gets started. I will say that the other part of the progression that could be argued for if it's done pre-snap, this has to be a pre-snap read, so you have to read between that nickel corner, you have to read between the outside corner. You got to understand how they're going to leverage and they're going to play the coverage here, right? But based upon what they gave you post-snap, obviously we already have the answers to the quizzes, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I would have done something different if I was the quarterback in-game here. But knowing what we know, knowing we have the answers to the test right now, if you look at Jahan Dotson's route here, and I do understand that he has to clear that corner that's kind of sitting down there first, and Jalen probably when he initially looks there, sees the corner in place with someone up above him. He's looking at the Saquon route, sees he can't quite get that one there 1,000% safely. I still think that was the play personally, guys. And I think he just expected, that the Devontae Smith route was going to be there. I think he thought he had a 3-on-2 and that clearly Devontae's route was going to be the one that was open. In reality, because they did that simulated pressure look, it was really a 3-on-3 in terms of the route there. But you can make an argument that if the window is there, if the footwork matches the window of opportunity for that Jahan Dotson play, and this all has to be done pre-snap, guys. You can't have this drawn up in your head one way, then think that you're going to get your footwork down right to hit that play, which is very much a timing route from the development of that route. But it is there. That's something that I think they have to go back to the drawing board on. I think they have to be a little bit more honest about some of the structural things inside of the offense. And to be real with you, they need to find a way of working Jahan Dotson into the offense during the offseason. I get that he was traded for towards the very end of setting our 53-man rosters and getting ourselves prepared for week 1. Then they kind of bring in Jahan Dotson to play the wide receiver 3 role, and he probably needs more time to be incorporated into the offense. He needs that offseason together, with all the guys to be incorporated. But I will say that over the course of the year, Jahan has shown the ability with a little wiggle in his route running. He gets a little separation at the top of his route stems. I do think this is a guy that as the offense evolves next year, because I still think Saquon's going to be the man. I still think they're going to run Saquon quite a bit, even next year. But I do think you're going to see a general progression towards more passing next season, to be quite honest, because teams are going to cue in on Saquon during the offseason. They're going to spend a lot of time making sure that Saquon can't beat them next year, solely by himself, if you will, with the offensive line, right? He's the guy that I think that sometimes there are opportunities in the offense, and it's like he's not even really a true part of the progression. He's almost running clear out routes, 99% of the time here. You know what I mean? That's an area where I think they got to be better. If I'm being honest about it, if I'm not, trying to protect the offensive coordinator, the quarterback, the O-line, or what I'm saying, like the coach, the head coach, if I'm just being honest about the situation, I think Jahan Dotson is a guy that next season, as we get into the offseason and you get into those, OTAs, and you get into, like, you guys get what I'm saying, all the organized activities around the offense. When you're first installing the offense, they've got to find a way of getting this guy incorporated, because we saw the second and third string guys, they are used to doing work with him, and they weren't afraid to put the ball in Jahan Dotson's hands. So, I mean, I think there's some ability there with Jahan Dotson. I don't think that is as bad a pick as people think. As bad a move, I should say. It wasn't a pick, it was a move, as people think. But nonetheless, like, he's, there are times where you look at film and you're like, man, like, it gets kind of hard to defend some of this stuff, because, like, it is there. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here. We're going to run over a couple, like I said, there's 7 sacks in these games. I'm going to run over each one of them as much as I can and just kind of explain the concepts behind what we're seeing and kind of what occurred on those plays.